the open mic sign-in sheet. We have a section for poetry and a section for fiction. So we have a section for poetry and fiction and a section for music. This is not getting off to a great start. So if you have something you'd like to play, we'd ask you, of course, 5-minute limit for readings, 5-minute limit for music. And you know, if we have only 1 or 2 people doing anything, then we may give you a chance to do a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to pass this around. Please sign up if you'd like. Anybody? Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Is that the camera there? Dr. Fano, you set the camera up there? Wow. Okay. Hello, internets. Okay. All right, the next thing, and perhaps the most important bit of business, is the line poem. What we like to do here is to, I'll ask you in a moment for a line. I will say of poetry, but it doesn't really have to be of poetry, but a line. And then I'm going to pass this around, and everybody will add a line. And at the end of the evening, I'll read our poem, because it'll be all of yours fault. All right? So right now, do I have a suggestion for a line of poetry? There was something that was bantered about earlier.
Ode to the toe.
Ode to the toe. That's a title. We'll go with that. But I need something about this toe, and then we can move on.
Where's Ken? He should give him.
Ken, speak of your toe.
What was the first thought that came to your head when you saw your toe?
Oh my God.
Can we get a little bit more than that?
How doth
It hurts.
What is that? What did you say?
how doth this toe wiggle so?
Ken, quit your day job. Wait, don't quit your day job. Sorry. How doth this toad wiggle so? How doth? That's with an E. Doth this toe?
That's also with an E.
So,
See, this is the problem with the small crowd, okay? So there's going to be some heckling. Wiggle so. How doth this? That's a question mark. And I will pass it around. You're the first person, so you, she will write the second line. Everybody knows it now. All right? If you want to, you can pass it to somebody else. Nobody knows. Okay, there you go. He's running the second line. All right then. We have tonight. We're very happy to welcome back to the Louisiana Review reading series, J. Bruce Fuller. Jay is. I'm gonna. You know what? Didn't even ask for a biography, so I'm just gonna kind of wing it. Jay has his MFA in creative writing from McNeese State. But all the good people have their MFA in creative writing from McNeese State, because I do. And then, in addition, he is working on his PhD in creative writing at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. He is also the editor of Rougarou, which is the literary journal of UL, and he has just published, or had published, a new chapbook, and he has another chapbook coming out, but he doesn't have copies of that. He has copies of this one right here. So please remember that, and at the break, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to sell you a copy, and maybe he would even autograph it. Have you done that before?
Yeah.
Okay, see? So he's experienced. All right. Well, then, without further ado, we'd like to please ask you to give a warm round of applause for J. Bruce Fuller.
Thank you.
If the volume's not good enough for you, let me know. You're tall, so.
I'm kind of tall. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
I'm kind of a low reader, so you're just gonna have to forgive me, I guess. Give it some juice. First of all, I'd like to thank all of y'all for being here. It's very nice. I'd like to thank Dr. Michael Allemon, Dr. Billy Fontenot, everybody at LSUE, and the Louisiana Review. This is my second time here, and I'm very happy to be back. I guess I'm going to start with a few poems that recently came out that Dr. Allemon asked me to read. These two poems were recently published in the new issue of Burnt District. They should set the tone nicely for what I'm going to do tonight. The first one's called Boy, Age 9. This is what I learned of dismemberment. Hunting squirrels with my uncle, I learned to track them through the trees, to walk beneath their rustle and chase. When the squirrels noticed us, they froze and lay flat against the mottled bark. It was my job, he said, to walk noticeably across the straw-covered ground and move them around to expose the squirrels splayed back to him. The scatter shot would hardly ever kill them, but drop them like a top to the wooded floor. I learned to grab them by the tail and flail them fast against the trunk. I learned to listen for the moment of death, that hollow crack of skull on tree, like acorns falling on a tin roof, early winter. You know, so I like to start off with a pick-me-up. I don't really have any happy poems, so, well, yeah, I don't really have any happy poems. This next poem is a new poem, relatively new, and it's in the same issue. No, really, you can come in.
You scared him with your happy poem.
He was like, I don't want anything to do with that. Can't really blame him. I guess the only thing you need to know about this poem is it has a little piece of scientific jargon in it, which I don't do often. Roche limit, which is when a orbiting body is pulled apart by the gravity of its parent body. So think of the moon crashing into the earth. You get the idea. It's called Beneath the Chinaberry Trees. Beneath the Chinaberry trees we drank Tang and dreamed of escape, but the closest I came to space was a Kenmore refrigerator box. My brother cut portholes and I painted wings, but we never could make it fly, never figured out toolshed rocketry like that kid's dad in that movie. Close the hatch and look starboard. I'll be orbiting well within my Roche limit, and behind my mirrored faceplate I will fan out into a parade of atoms. Gravity is more than the pull of bodies. It is the disintegration of cardboard under a warm spring rain, the taste of bitter orange in my mouth. Thank you. There's a lot of Tang fans in the audience, I see. I stopped mixing it with water and just started spooning it out of the jar. Try it. Change your life. Michael mentioned I had a new chapbook out, and looks like this. It's recently released, i.e. we bumped the release date up for tonight, so it's out today. It's supposed to be out like Saturday or something. But Lazy Mouse Press put it out. It's called Lancelot, and I'm going to read from it. I guess the setup that you need to know for this one is the entire book is based on a character, a boy named Lancelot, who lives in a dirty, dingy, very backwaters, Styx kind of place called the Lake. And Lancelot's problem is he's a dreamer in a place where dreams don't really exist. So the first one's called Lancelot of the Lake. Black, 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 a grave for tiny things that float, then sink, then turn to silt in the ash-gray bottoms. The lake. The people's faces, worn and weathered, scarred, scowling, a hard life. The lake is no place for dreams. And here is Lancelot, small, ugly, full of hope. Lancelot the dreamer. His father is stern, his mother is silt. He carries his buckets of fish heads, dreams of what lies beyond the wood's edge. He cleans the troughs and mends the nets, wonders about the ways of unknowable things. Daddy smacks him often to clear the cobwebs from his thick mind, but Lancelot hears the music and the frog's song, understands the dance of the purple martins, loves to watch the swoop of bats at dusk, gorging. He does not envy the predator or the prey, understands that everything has a place. This next one's called Lancelot Dreams of a Kingdom, and in this book I kind of play a little bit with the Lancelot legend, King Arthur legend, so maybe you'll pick up some of that. If he could have a kingdom, he would make it just like this. The forests full of sweet gum, a place where the crickets hum all night and water snakes hiss. Lancelot dreams of castles made from the bones of tiny fish. The lake is a cathedral of pines and cypress knees, but Lancelot looks around at the decay, the drawn faces, bent backs in the fields, the knobby hands mending the nets. He smells the chum in the air, a death smell sunk down in his clothes, sunk down in the earth itself. He breathes in the buckets of discarded scales, guts, fish eyes and fins, breathes it in deep as he carries it to the screaming pelicans at the edge of the water. Waving on the trot lines, he sees shining banners where there is only doubled over duct tape to mark the place of rusted hooks. He sees sharp lances where there are only cane poles. Daddy smacks the daydream out of the back of his head. Lancelot heaves the chum bucket and marches down the ever-sloping bank. The surface sparkles and everything is stars, stars, stars. I would say that Lancelot is a lot like me, but this next poem made me look kind of foolish, so I won't say that. Hint. This next one's called Lancelot Dreams of a Maiden. The fair, golden-haired, pretty girls giggle and play. His hair is dark and curly, his nose too big. He knows they will not look his way. And here comes Sister Sue skipping along around the lake where Lancelot guts his fish. She makes a face when she sees him. And here comes little Jamie Ray, who spits at poor Lancelot, stops to say that none of the girls would ever steal a kiss from you. But he knows that the girls of the lake are mean and ugly inside, says to himself, one day I'll get a real pretty girl to love me, one that don't spit or cuss or throw fits, a real right maiden. He recalls the one time late at night when he stole off to watch the moon ripple on the water, recalls how, like an angel out of a book, the lady rose right up out of the blackness, and he knows she was real. She looked him dead in the eye. The lady of the lake, he says, she's a real right maiden. Now, when the old-timers talk about that lady that lives deep down under the blackened surface, all the fair and pretty girls cough in their pretty handkerchiefs and roll their eyes. But Lancelot, hiding beneath the porch, well, he just smiles and nods right along. And, this is the last Lancelot poem I'll read. It's called Lancelot Dreams of Adventure. After I take a sip of coffee. Through the pines, the crows fly to where disaster calls them. They flit and tumble and cry. Lancelot, held down beneath the sky, knows that flight is not for him. Lancelot, grown now and out of the shadow of his father, the king of no one. In his youth he wished to part and blow away along the breeze, to leave behind the people of the lake, the bones and stobs and sinking muck. But the wind paints the grasses, a subtle art, a secret power, a whisper in the trees, and insects sing their dreamy songs that lilt and lull a life away. Lancelot, still here today. Lancelot, the broken boy. He does not feel ashamed. He knows that a man belongs where he belongs. He loves the water, the sharp grasses, the belly-up fish that bob and listen to him at the bank's edge. For what is the sky but another net that can't be broken? No, he knows that down is the way he will go. Down, down into the silt of the lake bottom, down to dream the fish dreams. Lancelot turns back to his work, back to his hard scrabble life, back to his hard scrabble beautiful life. Thought I'd read some newer poems that are going to be in my next book, tentatively titled The Woodsman Son. I think you'll notice there's a lot of boys and fathers around here. I guess that's kind of my thing. When I was putting these together this morning, I was like, these people are going to think that I only write about fathers and sons, but I guess maybe I do only write about fathers and sons, actually. So this poem's called The Woodsman Son, and it begins with a quote from John Colburn. The hand tears in two and keeps becoming a bird. A father sends his son into the woods. How will he live? The canopy closes dark above his hanging head. The boy is afraid. The woods will provide. The trees seem a cage to him, but the small birds flit between sweet gum branches, and the boy covers a break in the leaves with his thumb as he squints. Not so far. There are squirrels, and he calls to them, but they will not come, chases them, but they will not be caught. The trees do not belong to him. The boy is hungry. The sky is the answer, but how can he reach it, tied as he is to this decaying earth? The woods are a room, and he is a bird that slipped past the sash. Where is his window? He runs and calls and calls and calls until Father comes to carry him home. I always say that the woods and the water are characters in my poem. Very scary things to a child, I think. This next poem just recently got published at Canyon Voices, and I realized after a short celebration that Canyon Voices is an online publication, which means that my mother will probably find it. This becomes complicated when you write about people you know in your poems, because they all got Facebook. So, I don't know. We'll see what she says. I'll let you know. It's called Photograph of My Mother at Wolin Lake. She is at the stove in the camper kitchen in front of the screen door, late autumn. In pajamas, she makes a breakfast of eggs and deer sausage. She does not like to be photographed. The look on her face is half hidden by her red hair, which is long for the last time in her life. This is 3 months before the divorce. She cut it away, like many other lost things. I will never know her as she was then, a girl at the stove in the camper kitchen, the years like leaves not yet fallen. I'll get an email for that one, I'm sure. I'll get you write nice poems. This next poem is called Traitor Nocturne, which is based on the old folk medicine of Cajun and Creole people. Tonight, there is an open window and a pinch of salt. Beyond the edge of light from this small room, cicadas chant their dirge in stands of cypress. Tomorrow, the people will come to be healed. They will bring their swollen joints and inflammations, their mal aux dents, and I will lay my hands on them. I will whisper the prayers passed down to me. There are too few now who know the ardor of waiting, the sprinkling of leaves on the doorstep, this alchemy. This next poem, based on a true story. 3 true stories, actually. Yeah. I don't know what they mean when you put them together, but if you have an idea, maybe you can tell me later. It's called Alone in the Briar Thicket. 1. I had woven myself in so carefully, and with the lost ball deftly retrieved, turned to find myself caught. The deer thicket swallowed me beneath the thorn shadows. I screamed for hours. When my voice went numb, I hung there sobbing, and small birds came back to their nests. 2. Papa showed me why they're called king snakes. Under a pin oak on the banks of Wolin Lake, showed me how the rattlesnake, half hidden in the king's mouth, still shivered his rattles, still rustled the leaves. 3. The baby rattlesnake would not eat. The jar where it was kept was full of dead shiners, a spot of blood near the end of its yellow tail where the rattle would have formed. Why he showed me this, I am only beginning to understand. 4. Somehow, Papa heard me crying. I glimpsed him through the trees, running across the field. When he found me, his touch was softer than usual, pulling my shirt free, twisting my ankles from the wiry brambles. I could not walk, I had hung there so long. He carried me to the house, my head against his chest. So, speaking of fathers and sons, I grew up, messed around, and had one of my own. So I'm getting a lot of perspective. This next poem, I guess, is about that. My wife and I were on our way to France. We go to France as often as possible. And I wrote this poem on the airplane somewhere over Iceland, wherever that is. It's called On Seeing the Ocean from 35,000 feet. This could be our water, all the rivers and streams and bayous of home, where we will all end up in the green-blue wash and churn. The ocean is black now after nightfall, and from this height it could be asphalt or dark mud, but some sense of it is there to swallow us if we fall. I am on my way to the old country my forefathers left, but I am thinking of my father, who was watching my children play by the waters of the brown Beth River. I ask him through the glass if we are happiest at such distances, or if sons and fathers are bound by the waters that surround them, and he answers with a wave that stirs the darkened clouds beneath the wings. It's probably enough about my dad, yeah? And make sure there's no more. Oh, no, there's another one. Yeah, there's another one. There's another one. The last group of poems that I'm going to read is from a series that I've been working on for a while, and actually, the last time I read here in October, some of these poems were quite new. So I thought I'd read a few more that are more recently written. They all come from, well, they're all based on Caravaggio paintings. Caravaggio, the great Renaissance artist, who mostly painted biblical scenes. I found that when I started writing these that they're not really about the paintings at all, though if you've seen the painting it might help. The paintings are really just more of a springboard, so don't worry if you have no idea what I'm talking about. So this first one is called David with the Head of Goliath. He painted their flesh, their faces, their sins, and the filth of their nails. He would have us see them as we are, the whores and longshoremen pulled off the streets to lie still and nude in floodlight. He would have us see ourselves in them, these commoners canonized, to show us what we look like, the head of Goliath, a self-portrait. It's in reference to that painting, David's holding the head of Goliath, and it's really creepy when you find out that the face on David is Caravaggio's face. I mean, what a freak, right? Just saying. That's the only one about Caravaggio. All the rest of them are about various things. This next one is called The Boy with a Basket of Fruit. And that painting is a painting of a boy with a basket of fruit. There's not really much to explain there. Just imagine it. Yeah, that's all you really need to know. The muscadines were ripe enough to pick, and I could taste the swollen fruit already, though Papa chased us all away with sticks. But soon the time came to make the jelly. We played and picked this subtle harvest, yet felt like kings in orchard majesty, for we with less still knew that we were blessed. To tug at earth and know what's won is thine, to take what's earned and covet not the rest. O Bacchus, sing of wheat and woes and wines, for healthy pleasures were not ours to feel. We are the children of the muscadines. But in my pride there spins a sullen wheel, and this self-portrait comes to haunt me still. My mom is making a showing in this reading. I don't write much about her for some reason. I'm not sure why. I'm sure I'll get an email about that too. But this next poem is called Madonna of the Serpent, and in that painting, a young 6, 7, 8-year-old Jesus is helping the Mother Mary crush the head of the serpent. And it reminded me of something that me and my brother used to do when we were kids. Something I don't suggest you do, which is hunt snakes for fun. And it reminded me of my mother. So this is Madonna of the Serpent. Mother was not pleased when she heard how we lured the serpents out of the water with our crawfish nets and tramped down on their heads with our black rubber boots. The moccasins were as gray as the wet sky. We were not bitten. Let him alone, Papa told her. A boy ought not fear a snake. But she did fear, and she marched us firmly out of our wet clothes and into the house. A mother knows much of good and evil, but too little of a boy's desire to test himself against it. She never knew the feel of the snake's dark body, the crunch of its skull underfoot, nor how her foot helped to guide my own. Don't do that. That was dumb. We were idiots. My brother pops up a lot. One of my brothers, in my poems. And this next poem is based on something that really happened to him, something I saw. It's called The Conversion of Saul. And in this painting, Saul is lying struck blind in the road to Damascus. And in Caravaggio's version, there's a horse stepping over him on the road. And it reminded me of this. So this is The Conversion of Saul. Once my brother was trampled by a horse. The horse was blind. Neither saw the other coming. There was no time to call out, to warn him. After his dusty body rolled, he rose, slightly changed. Thank you. Horse had pink eye. Couldn't see shit. Running around like a crazy animal. We were trying to give it a shot to cure the pink eye, so he, of course, tried to kill us. This next poem is called The Incredulity of St Thomas. If you know the biblical story of the doubting Thomas, where the disciple Thomas couldn't believe that Jesus rose from the grave, so he had to stick his finger in the ribs of Jesus' wound. And, you know, that's a great painting and a great story, but this really doesn't have much to do with it. It starts with a quote from Robert Hayden. Sundays too, my father got up early. I thought he had a heart attack, but watched him crawl into bed to sleep it off. The next morning he slept in, and I knew then for the first time that my father would forsake me and die. This was his final lesson, that a body once feared could be broken. 30 years of labor was too short a time to do such damage, and my hands were unburdened and guilty. This was the gift that he left to me. He rose after noon and tried to dress. I put my father back to bed and touched my finger to his ribs to make sure he was still there. So, you know, once again, I'd like to thank all of you for sitting through this. I understand that poetry can be boring. And I really appreciate being able to read on the Louisiana rereading series again. I love coming over here. It's a great atmosphere. So thank you to everybody. This will be my last poem. So we'll see you next time, hopefully. It's called The Sacrifice of Isaac. There are sons and there are fathers. The ram is caught in the thorns. Who will stay our sturdy hands when the knife is raised on the mountain? Thank you all.
Please, one more round of applause for tremendous poetry. Before we take a break, we have an announcement that I forgot to announce about hearing earlier. So I'd like to welcome Patricia Brown, who is our new reference librarian at LSUE. And there's a function going on at the library next month that she'd like to speak to you about just a little bit. After that, we'll take a break and you can enjoy some refreshments.
Just briefly, I would like to invite all of you all to the LSUE campus in front of the library, which is aptly named the Sweet Library, the Ledoux Library. Did you know the Ledoux?
Yeah, yes.
April 10th, that's the Wednesday after spring break if you're a college student at LSUE, and 2 weeks if you're a high school student. April 10th, noon. We hope it'll be outside if the weather's good enough. You can bring a chair, you can bring a poem to read, you can bring yourself and your lunch and hang out with us. Dr. Almon is reading. Who else in here is reading?
That's it.
All right, no, Dr. Elliott.
Oh, Dr. Elliott,
Dr.
you're
Elliott
reading.
is reading.
Why don't you say anything, Dr. Elliott?
I just like to be looked for.
We eagerly look for you, for all of the readers. So bring something if you want to read. If you don't, come to listen, eat, enjoy the wonderful late spring in Southwest Louisiana on the beautiful LSUE campus. April 10th at noon. Thank you, Michael.
Very welcome. Thank you, Dr. Brown. Like I said, we'll take a little bit of a break. If someone has everybody done the line poem, added a line? I know there's not a lot of people here, so it looks like that was the case. And the sign-in sheet is up here. If you have yet to sign in, please do so. And let me add one thing. I know that the group tonight is small, but having watched all of you while the reading was going on, it is perhaps maybe the most attentive group that we've had here, and it's much it's nicer to have 20 people listening than 50 people texting. So thank you all very much.
That's a great line.
I don't think so. I might try for the next reading. Okay, exactly.